Like a lot of contemporary creators making work in the YouTube video crafting gear community, I am acutely aware that this niche is unlikely to scale or blow up in the way it might have done in even recently reasonable YouTube history. Which is unfortunate because I have attached an enormous amount of effort into the idea of talking about tripods on the internet. There is, however, a niche that does seem to be doing very well. It's wholesome, it's visually pleasing, it has a much higher scaling potential than my particular subject matter of interest, and it appears to reward people who can make small, lovely things in nice rooms. Arts and crafts. Unfortunately for me, I am not the world's most artsy and crafty man. However, all is not lost. Not a day goes by where I don't fantasize about the good life, living off the cream of an as yet unrealized YouTube empire in the arts and crafts niche, built by Meg. Meg is an artist, she loves crafting things. Why wouldn't she be the golden ticket? Why wouldn't she build the empire? Why wouldn't I simply just kick back occasionally if I felt particularly energetic that day, perhaps review a silly anamorphic lens? That is the life I want. There are admittedly a few steps between where we are now and that life, and one of the first steps would be getting Meg back onto YouTube. I think coercion is a poorly performing approach. What I can do though is help reduce the things that I know make creating content for YouTube a real pain in the butt. We have cameras at our disposal, we have lenses, and we have tripods for days. Those are not the things I'm talking about today. I'm talking about lighting. I recently watched a fantastic video by a fellow video professional making content called PD Mockery. Piotr is an incredibly energetic communicator and has been a genuinely useful resource for me because, as I've mentioned before, I don't come from a formal video, film, or production training background. Everything I know is something that I've taught myself, learned through practice, or picked up from generous communicators on YouTube, or made some sort of mistake and error and then had to work out what's gone wrong. And to illustrate that, when I started making video, I didn't even know the name of a C-stand. I'd seen them, I knew they existed, but if you put one in front of me, I couldn't tell you its name. Piotr's content is educational, practical, delightful, like I mentioned, highly energetic, and very good at showing how grip and lighting ideas actually work in small, real-world spaces. He actually shared a video recently featuring a sort of smorgasbord of small lights in a small space, and then very ably demonstrated how to make that space look good. And inspired by that, and with my own smorgasbord of small lights, I wanted to see if I could recreate some of that magic in Meg Studio. Not as a complicated lighting exercise, more as a way of asking a practical question. Can I make Meg Studio look good enough for repeatable YouTube content? And specifically, can I create a repeatable A-roll setup for Meg in a way that reduces any inhibition to actually making the videos? Because I know all too well that anything you have to set up every single time you want to make something becomes quite dissuasive as a creator. And even if the setup is simple, even if it only takes a few minutes to set up, even if on paper it's no big deal, the moment making a video requires clearing a space, finding a stand, rigging a modifier, moving furniture, plugging things in, balancing a key light, adding fill, checking spill, dealing with reflections, and then at the end, putting it all away again, you have created a very compelling reason not to do it. That is deadly for a channel. Especially a new channel, especially a channel that exists mostly in my imagination as a future arts and crafts empire, supporting my comfortable lens reviewing retirement. So, the objective is simple. We need to make something easy, repeatable, effective, and slightly flattering. The subject needs to look good on camera, the work needs to look beautiful, the space needs to feel intentional. And the fixtures can't be big. The second you start bringing in large lights, large modifiers, big stands, booms, flags, general production clutter into an ordinary residential room, you are working against the room. We don't have huge high ceilings. Everything we use has to be mindful of the fact that if it takes up space, it will very quickly be in the way. So small, bright fixtures are the order of the day. And I'm not sure that there's anyone doing more interesting work in the world of small, bright fixtures at the moment than Zhiyun. I've been using a Mollus X60 from them, and for its footprint, it's kind of unbelievable. I mentioned to Zhiyun what I wanted to achieve here, plus the challenges I have with lighting. Small room, creative workspace, no room for a huge fixture with a huge modifier, needs to look good, needs to be quick, needs to be repeatable, and they recommended a couple of things. The first is the Fiveray M60 Ultra, and the second is the Fiveray M40 SE. And what I want to find out is whether Between these two very compact lights, I can create a pleasing, practical, repeatable look for Meg in her studio without taking up too much space, without making the room horrible to work in, and without turning content creation into an enormous performance every time she just wants to film something. So let's get stuck in. The challenge with Meg's studio is not that it's a bad room. It's a very nice room. It has art materials, texture, shells, things with personality, bits of work in progress, the kind of visual clutter that actually looks really wonderful on camera when you control it properly. The challenge comes that rooms designed for living and working in are rarely very suitable for filming in off the bat. And this is what makes this space useful as a test, because I suspect most people who want to start a YouTube channel are not starting with a proper studio. They're starting with a spare room, a desk, a kitchen table, a garage, a corner of a bedroom, or a little office that has already got to do some other job. If every video begins with dismantling your working space to build a filming space, you're definitely going to make fewer videos, and that's just human nature. What I want for Meg is the opposite of that. I want for her to be able to just sit down, switch on a small repeatable A-roll setup, make something, talk through something, show a process, demonstrate an idea, and then carry on with her day. And watch the dollars roll in. The camera should be ready, the lighting should be quick, and the room should still feel like her room. That's the whole brief. And also, I should probably mention, Meg has her own product, video, and stills kind of side hustle. And as such, a corner of the studio is set up to make that easy, and that works really well. But because that area is already pretty dialed in and we've made it as small and as compact as possible, we don't really want to be diving in and pulling fixtures out temporarily to film A-roll, only to then put them back in. You know how it is. That's big hassle. Anyway, in this space, we can expose an image, we can see Meg, we can see the space. But it doesn't really feel good enough to be a channel, especially as Meg is sometimes a video creative. The vague plan for the M60 Ultra is to use it as the thing that creates the main shape in the room. The really interesting thing about this light is that it's small, powerful, RGB, and it's very good at projecting its light because each lamp has its own lens, and that means it can throw a more useful amount of light than you might expect from something this compact. I'm going to be testing it both with and without the egg crate modifier, partly because the room is small and partly because spill could be the enemy of making this space look deliberate, but we'll see. If a light goes everywhere, the room might flatten out. If you can control where it lands, even a simple setup starts to feel more considered. My first thought is to point the M60 Ultra towards a reasonably plain section of wall or ceiling, and what I'm trying to accomplish here is to create a large, soft bounce source, and that softness should spill very nicely onto Meg. I'm sure this setup or method or technique has a proper name, but regardless of what it's called, I am pointing a small, powerful light at a big, flat bit of room and hoping that the room gives something beautiful back. Like I alluded to, the advantage of bouncing light is that the apparent source becomes much bigger. A tiny light pointed directly at someone is definitely going to look too hard. If I point it at the wall becomes the source. If I point it up towards the ceiling becomes the source. And if I can get it roughly just somehow vaguely believable or motivated, it should give Meg's face a little shape without making the whole thing feel overlit. This is already much more interesting. The light is still simple and the setup is still small and easily moved, but the room has started to feel like there's a decision behind it. Meg's face has more shape, the background has fallen away slightly, and the image has a more pleasing direction. Because the M60 Ultra is so compact, it doesn't feel like we've had to invade the room with lighting equipment, and that's quite an important component. A huge amount of making YouTube sustainable comes down to removing friction. If the best looking setup is a huge faff, it may be the worst setup for the channel. If the slightly less perfect setup can be left half-built, recreated quickly, or done without turning the room upside down, that's probably actually the better solution. And then we also have the Fiveray M40 SE. This is the one that I have actually found strangely charming. There's something pleasingly rudimentary about it. It's just white light in various color temperatures with brightness control. And that means it doesn't need a complicated interface. It doesn't need a screen. It doesn't need menus. It doesn't need effects. It has tactile physical controls, which is wonderful because sometimes I think the correct interface for a light can simply just be brighter, darker, warmer, cooler. That is enough. It's enough for me. That's the whole job. I'm going to use this as an accent light. I'm not entirely sure where it's going to go yet, which is partly the point. It might be a hair light, it might create a little edge on Meg's shoulder, or it might just skim across some features in the background. It might just lift a corner of the frame that otherwise would feel a bit dead. And That's the appeal of a small accent light, is that you can experiment quickly. You don't have to commit to an enormous decision and run around trailing cables everywhere. You can hold it in your hand, move it around, see what happens, and then when you found something, you can prop it up or mount it. Placed behind Meg, it just helps create a bit of separation. I don't want to make it too bright or distracting, and I want to keep a bit of contrast between Meg's lighting and the scene. I think this looks quite good. And I think it's worth saying that the trick with accents is restraint. A little goes a long way. And for Meg's channel, I think the right direction is natural, warm, creative, slightly crafted, with just enough visual polish so that the videos feel worth watching. And the lighting needs to be able to support that, but it doesn't have to announce itself. And so the final setup is roughly this. The M60 Ultra is doing all the work. It's aimed into a large flat surface to create a soft, indirect source that feels very flattering and much less aggressive than if you just pointed a beam of light at Meg's face. I didn't end up using the egg crate modifier in the end, just because it wasn't quite as flattering. With the distance between the fixture and the wall, the broader light pattern was actually the best looking. And the M40 SE is working as a very flexible accent. It gives us separation on Meg, a bit of interest in the background, and it can also give a small practical feeling highlight elsewhere in the frame, so it just looks good. And the rest is just a little bit of balancing. We don't want the room to feel dark and moody, because that wouldn't be the right vibe for an arts and crafts channel, and we don't want to feel it too flat and overly functional either. We want warm, usable, repeatable, friendly, with enough direction that the image feels well made. And the setup is small enough that it could realistically be deployed again and again and again with ease. And that last part is the whole point of what I was trying to achieve, because the perfect setup that never gets used is useless. The imperfect setup that encourages you to make more work is so much more valuable. If you're enjoying this kind of real-world video problem solving, please give the video a like, and also subscribe to the channel, all of that YouTube stuff. This is exactly the sort of thing I enjoy working through. Small production problems, practical setups, gear that solves a real problem, and the occasional attempt to build a future media empire, all on the back of Meg's superior artistic potential. You can find me on Instagram at JackFilmed, where I share more behind the scenes bits, rigging experiments, commercial work, lighting tests, and whatever strange object I've decided to point a camera at that week. Also, if you want to check out Meg's art and her developing practice, you can find her at Meg Isaacs Art. There's a version of this setup where I use larger lights, bigger modifiers, proper stands, flags, negative fill, diffusion, all of the things. And it would probably look better, of course. It would definitely be more controllable, but also I'm sure it would make Meg less likely to film when I'm not around. That is the trade-off. And for this particular job, I'd much rather build a system that is 85% as polished and 300% more likely to be used. That feels like the correct decision. My dream of early retirement on an arts and crafts YouTube empire lives on. I'm Jack. Whatever this is, I'm calling Western Approaches. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.